Hi, it's Alyssa here and Joe from Grace and Strength. Today I will be leading us in a strength builder class leading up to our King Pigeon pose. Now this pose can be quite difficult if you don't warm up properly, so we'll be doing many prep poses to get into it. As we work towards King Pigeon, one of my favorite poses, I thought it would also be very timely to use this time to discuss about one of my favorite characters in the Bible, Moses. We'll be talking about a time when God was calling Moses to go speak to Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, a very difficult task to do. Well, I guess speaking to the king is definitely more difficult than working our way up towards King Pigeon pose. Why don't we discuss about both today? Joe will be doing some variations with the 2 blocks, so if you can't get into King Pigeon pose yet and you're still working at it, then grab 2 blocks and let's begin. So let's start off today in a butterfly pose. So bring the soles of our feet to touch, creating a nice diamond shape with our legs. And you can either walk your hands forward or you can have your hands on your ankles and just sit up nice and tall, whatever feels good for you today. Relax your shoulders down away from your ears and take nice long breaths as I set today's meditation and theme. Today's passage is from Exodus chapter 4, verse 10 to 13. Moses said to the Lord, "Pardon your servant, Lord. I have never been eloquent, neither in the past nor since you have spoken to your servants. I am slow of speech and tongue." The Lord said to him, "Who gave human beings their mouths? Who makes them deaf or mute? Who gives them sight or makes them blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now go, I will help you speak and will teach you what to say." But Moses said, "Pardon your servants, Lord. Please send someone else." Stay here for a few more rounds of breath. This is probably one of my favorite passages because it constantly reminds me that God doesn't necessarily choose us for a specific calling because we are capable. But often we are not capable, but because of our weakness, God chooses us and His glory can be made known. Take a few more rounds of breath. Maybe come deeper into the stretch and walk your hands forward a little bit more. Walk your fingers forward if you can. And slowly release and walk your hands back up if they're not already. Now come back into a comfortable seated position and bring your hands to your shoulders, and we're just going to do some shoulder rolls just to warm up our body a little bit. So just drawing circles with your elbows. Drawing circles nice and controlled. Try not to swing the arms. And in opposite direction. A few more circles. And then slowly release. Place your hands on your knees now. Now keeping our hips down and onto the mat. Try not to lift your hips up. We're going to slowly lean our body over to the right knee. Lengthening your spine. And then slowly circling over to the left knee. And then slowly draw your upper body all the way back and round your spine. And then drawing a circle all the way back to the right knee. Nice and controlled. You'll be tempted to lift your hips up slightly, but try to keep your hips down onto the mat. Nice long breaths. Now, a little bit of context of this passage. At that time, the Lord was calling Moses to go speak to Pharaoh. He wanted him to go speak to Pharaoh so that he can tell him to let the Israelites go because the many Israelites were slaves in Egypt. Now, that's pretty scary, right? I mean, you have to go to the king of Egypt. And who was Moses? He didn't feel like he was eloquent in speech. He wasn't good enough. And let's just be honest, we all would be pretty scared if we were given that role. So I don't blame him for being scared and telling God, I'm not good enough for this job. Now slowly circling to the other way, to the opposite direction. But here we're reminded, like God says, no, who gives you the mouth to speak? It is I, the Lord, right? Like He's the one who gives us the ability to do everything, and He's the one who will equip us. And so often when we don't feel like we're good enough, that doesn't matter. It's not whether we're good enough, because we have a God who's good enough. And then slowly back to center. Very good. Now we're going to come into cow face legs to really just stretch out the hips, work the hips a little bit, and our shoulders, because in our peak pose today, we'll be needing to open up our shoulders as well. So left hand grab onto the right ankle and bring it to the left side of our hips. And then right hand grab onto the left ankle and bring it out to the right side of our hips. Now keep both feet flexed. It might look a little bit different for everyone, so it doesn't matter as long as you feel your hips stretching. So your goal is to get your knees roughly stacked over each other, but if it's a bit off, that's totally okay. If it feels good, push your ankles forward a little bit. Nice long breaths here. Sit up nice and tall to begin with. And the arms out to the side, we're going to come into eagle arms as well. So we're going to cross our arms over each other with our left arm on top. Then we're going to bend our elbows and then either just bring the back of our hands to touch, or if you can, try to bring your right fingers pressing into your left palm. And then slowly lift your elbows up, shooting the fingers up towards the sky. Inhale. As you exhale, lower the elbow down towards your knees. And then lift up on the inhale. Exhale, lower down. And lift up. Just a few more rounds here. At your own pace, follow your own breathing pattern. Remember to keep your feet flexed to protect your knees. And lift up high. Now the interesting thing is, even though God said to Moses, look, I will be the one who will be speaking, so go ahead, I will equip you. Pretty much that's what God is saying. But even at the end, Moses said, pardon your servant, but can you still find someone else? How often do we do that? Even when, we read the scriptures and God constantly tells us that He'll equip us and He'll be with us, yet we still doubt and go, God, not me, choose someone else for the job. Maybe something simple like, God, I don't want to evangelize to that person at the workplace. Leave it for someone else to speak to them. Or I don't want to reach out to a family member and care for them. Can you leave it with someone else? They're so difficult to love. And slowly release your hands, release your arms. Very good. Now walk your hands over to the left side. I'm going to spin all the way around, walking your hands all the way around. And then as you come back to the front, you'll find that your legs have swapped to the other side. Now, if you find that really confusing and difficult, then just untangle your legs and just swap legs. Now, your left leg should be on top now. Keep both feet flexed, and if it feels good, push the ankles forward a little bit. Try to keep your knees as stacked as possible. And now arms out to the side again for eagle arms. This time, right arm crosses over and on top of the left arm. Bend the elbows and either bring the back of your hands to touch, or if you can, bring your left fingers against your right palm. And slowly lift your elbows up. Inhale, shoot the fingers up towards the sky. As you exhale, lower your elbows down towards your knees and slowly lift back up. Exhale, lower down. Inhale, lift up at your own pace. Just find your rhythm. Nice and controlled. Try to lift your elbows up a little bit more this time. One more breath in. And exhale, slowly release. Very good. Now slowly coming out of it, not too fast. Very good, nice and slow. Now we're going to come into frog pose next to really just stretch out the hips a little bit more. So you usually do this when you're stretching out for middle splits as well. So slowly slide your knees out to the side as wide as you can and keep your knees around 90 degrees bent and flex your feet. Now keep sliding all the way out to the side and try to keep your hips roughly in line with your knees, so not all the way forward. We want to try to keep your knees, your hips, and both knees and your hips in one straight line. Now slowly drop down onto your forearms to begin with, maybe just warming up into it because it might be quite a difficult stretch for some of you. Now, if you're comfortable to, then slowly drop your chest down, but try not to lean your hips forward. Just drop your chest down as close towards the mat as possible. And breathing into the stretch. Now, King Pigeon is quite a strong pose, so we do need to do a lot of prep work for it. So we do need to stretch out a lot of different muscles, including your hips, your lower back, your chest, and your shoulders. And we do need to warm up a little bit as well, because then it's easy to get into more bendy poses. Let's hold here for 5 more deep breaths. Nice long breaths, long exhales. One more breath in. Exhale, slowly release and walk your hands back in. Coming back up and bring your knees closer together. Now, we're going to come into puppy pose to really open up our shoulders a little bit now. So bring your knees in and we're going to slowly walk our hands all the way forward. And then we're going to try to keep our knees around 90 degrees bent here. And then slowly drop your chest down towards the mat. Now, the slightly easier version, if you want to begin with, is to just have your forehead on the mat. But if you're ready to come deeper into the pose, then slowly bring your chin onto the mat and lower your chest all the way down. And as you press your chest down towards the mat, you'll really feel your shoulders stretching, opening up the chest as well, stretching out your back. Breathing deep into the stretch. You might want to curl your toes for a little bit of support if that feels good. This might be a very good time to just reflect on how you usually respond when God calls you to do something. Sometimes our inability or incapability to do something is really exactly why God chose us. Because when we follow the calling and we know that without God it's impossible for us to do it, God's glory is made known more. Slowly walk your hands back in. Very good. And slowly come into a kneeling position. Now, the next pose we're going to come into is gate pose, but with a little variation, kind of combined between camel pose and gate pose. So left leg extend out to the side first. Right knee is still kneeling, so your hips are still exactly where they are, stacked over your right knee. And then right hand reaches back and grabs onto the right ankle. And you can take a variation with the block. Joe might do different variations if this is a bit too much for you. Now, I want you to press your hips forward. Make sure that your hips are still stacked over your knees, because a lot of times when people are leaning back, they start to lose the alignments. But to come into that deep back bend, we want to press the hips forward, keep the hips stacked over the right knee, then sweep the left arm all the way back. Nice long breaths. This is a very good way to transition into camel pose as well if you are working on camel pose. Keep pressing the hips forward. One more breath in. Exhale, slowly release, coming back up. Very good. Coming to the other side now. Left knee comes in, right leg extends all the way out to the right. Left hand reaches back and grab onto your ankles if you can. And right arm reaches all the way back and press your hips forward. Make sure that your hips are stacked over your left knee. Press your heart up towards the heavens. Try not to drop your head all the way back. Just drop back a little bit, but still bring your gaze up towards the ceiling. One more breath in. Exhale, slowly coming back up. Very nice. All right, now it's time to just really bring some movement into the body, because the warmer our body is, the easier it is to get into bendy poses, like I said before. So let's come into high plank first with our index finger pointing forward, shoulders stacked over our wrists, and our heels stacked over our toes. Now from here, we're gonna just flow between down dog and plank, and forward, and lift the sit bones up high, press your chest back, and plank, and up. And it's good to also work our core a little bit before we do back bends, because when we do back bends, a very common thing, which I used to always do, is to disengage the core. But if we can learn to engage our core in the back bend, then it makes the pose a lot better, because you should almost always engage your core in every pose. Your abdominal muscles, so squeeze your abdominals in the plank, squeeze it. So if you've done the alignment and beginners class with Joe, you would know that we should always engage and not let our rib cage flare out, and keep our belly tight. And so that's what you need to aim to do in your back bend as well. Keep the belly tight. Don't let the rib cage flare out. All right, back to downward facing dog. Let's meet everyone in downward dog. Okay, now let's do 5 bunny hops, kicking our heels up towards our bottom and landing back in downward facing dog. Let's go. Kick up. And 2. And 3. And 4. And 5. Whew. Very nice work. Very good. Now lift your right leg up for 3-legged dog. Bend the knee and open up the hips and draw circles with your right knee. Very good. Really nice hip opening stretch here. Preparing for our King Pigeon pose. And then step through between our hands. Now, it's really important to square our hips in our King Pigeon pose. So we're going to work on our Warrior 1 pose to learn to square off our hips. So drop the back heel down. You might want to shorten your stance if you find it difficult to get into Warrior 1, because today we're just mainly working on the hips. So rise up for Warrior 1 and maybe bring your hands to your hips, and make sure it's not turning out to the side, your hips, but your back leg, your back thigh is wrapping in and rotating inwards. And then you have your hip bones shining straight forward. Just practicing what it feels like to have your hips squared. Nice long breaths. Relax your shoulders down away from your ears. And you'll be tempted to keep spinning out to the left side. So keep pushing that right leg backwards, right thigh back into your hip socket, and then try to bring that left hip forward. Just a few more rounds of breath here. And then slowly lower your hands down onto the mat. Extend the right leg all the way back for 3-legged dog, and lower the right foot down, stopping to the other side now. Bend the knee, open up the hips, and just draw circles with your left knee, opening up the hips. Stretching it out a little bit. And then tuck the knee in and step through between your hands. Lower the back heel down again. And get your back toes to point around 45 degrees forward, and slowly rise up. Bring your hands to your hips. Remember to turn that right hip forward and spin that left hip back a little bit to square off the hips. Our focus for today's Warrior 1 is just to square off the hips. That's what we're working on. Nice long breaths. Relax your shoulders down. Our focus for today's Warrior 1 is just to square off our hips. Nice long breaths. And then slowly lower your hands down. Extend the left leg all the way back and lower the left foot down. Very good. Now right leg steps forward and drop your back knee down. We're going to come into a low lunge. And bring your hands to your right thigh and just let your hips sink down and forward. Remember not to have your left knee directly underneath your hips, but a bit further back so you allow space for your hips to sink down and forward. Try to keep your right knee just roughly over your right heel. Take nice long breaths here, sinking in. And then slowly bring your hands inside your right foot, so on the left, and heel toe your right foot out to the outside edge. And then blade your right foot to the outside edge if that feels good for a nice hip opening stretch. You can even drop down onto your elbows. One more deep breath in. Exhale, slowly release and walk your hands back up. Very good. Heel toe your right foot back to center. Hands on either side of your right foot. Curl your back toes, lift your back knee up, and extend the right leg all the way back. Lower the right foot down. Now swap to the other side. Let's step the left foot forward and drop your right knee down and curl the toes. Very good. Now come into our low lunge, pressing our hips down and forward, feeling that right hip flexor stretching. Sinking down. And then lowering your hands down onto the right side. Heel toe your left foot out to the outside edge of the mat. And then you can blade your left foot to the outside edge as well to open up the hips there. Now you have the option of just staying on your palms and just bending your elbows to lower yourself down, or drop onto your forearms. Keep letting that left leg drop out to the side, coming deeper into that hip opening stretch. Three more deep breaths here. One more breath in. And then slowly walk your hands back up if they're not already. And then heel toe your left foot back to center. Hands on either side of the left foot. Curl your back toes, lift your back knee up, and extend your left leg all the way back and drop it back down into downward facing dog. Very good. Now hinge forward into high plank. And then we're going to do high to low push-up. Lower ourselves all the way down until our belly touches the mat. Very good. Sweep our arms all the way back into locust pose and lift our legs up. I'm going to work on a little bit of our back bend now. Now either stay here or bend your knees. See if you can grab onto your ankles or your feet. And then slowly lift your knees up. Lift your chest up and press your chest forward for a deep back bend. Nice long breaths. Holding for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Slowly release all the way back down. Very good. Hands come next to your chest. Press up for cobra. Inhale. Exhale, come into child's pose. Slowly round your spine and come back up. And let's walk our hands one step forward, come into downward facing dog. Very good. Right leg lifts up now. Bend the knee, tuck in. And slowly bring the right knee towards the right wrist. Lower the left foot down, ready for pigeon pose. Now, we want to keep our right foot flexed. Now we're going to work our way to King Pigeon, but starting in half pigeon to begin with, what we want to aim to do is to square off our hips. So a lot of people have their right hip down and they're just spinning out to the left side. We want to work on squaring that off. Now we want to try to keep that front shin as parallel to the top as possible for our pigeon pose, just to really stretch out the hips a little bit. And keep our hips squared. Now if you're ready, you can slowly fold over your right leg, come onto your forearms, or even reach your arms all the way forward. You should feel your right glutes really stretching here. Sinking in with every exhale. Let's hold here for 3 more deep breaths. One more breath in, and exhale, slowly walk your hands back in. Very good. Bring your hands in front of your right leg, curl your left toes, lift your left knee up, and we're going to extend that right leg all the way back for 3-legged dog, and lower the right foot down. Very good. Let's do the other side now. Left leg lifts up, tuck the knee in towards your left elbow, and lower the left foot over to the right wrist. Lower down. Keep that left foot flexed. Try to bring the foot up a little bit higher if you can. And let's try to slide that right knee back. Remember, square off the hips. We're working on squaring off the hips and to stretch out the glute muscle on the left side. Now when you're ready, you can slowly fold over your left leg and come onto your forearms, or reach your arms all the way forward. With every exhale, let the right side of your hip sink down a little bit lower. One more breath in. Exhale, slowly release and walk your hands back in. Bring your hands in front of your left leg, curl your right toes, lift your right knee up off the mat and extend that left leg all the way back. Lower the left foot back down for downward facing dog. Very good. Are you ready for our peak pose now? Let's just walk out our dog for a moment. Now I'm just going to start on the left leg because it's easier for you to see on camera. So we're going to lift that left leg up, bring the knee in over to the left wrist, and then lower the foot down like we did in pigeon. And then uncurl the back toes, square off our hips. Now I like to start off by bending the right knee and grabbing onto the right foot first, just warming up into it. Then from here, I want you to hook your elbow, the inner of your elbow, onto your right foot, warming up into it. And as you draw that right foot as close as you can towards your body, left hand comes and grab onto the right foot. This is the way I like to transition into it. You might find it easier if you use a strap or whether you just flip the grip straight onto your right hand. I just find this a little bit easier. So from here, with your left hand grabbing onto your right foot, right hand comes and grab onto the right foot with your thumb on the sole of your right foot and the 4 fingers at the back. Easiest way to flip the grip. And then from here, release your left hand and then bring your right elbow all the way up towards the ceiling. Reach your left hand back and grab onto that foot as well, pressing your chest forward for our King Pigeon pose. Slowly press your chest forward. Nice long breaths here. Holding for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Nice and slow. Don't come out of it too fast. If not, you'll injure yourself. Slowly release that right leg all the way back. Very good work, warriors. Now bring your hands on the mat, curl your back toes, lift your back knee up, and then extend the left leg all the way back. Now we might want to bend the knee and open up the hips and just draw a few circles because that might feel pretty good for the glutes. Nice work. And lower the left foot down when you're done. Now, other side. Right leg lifts up. Bend the knee, tuck in. Bring your right knee to your right wrist. Lower the foot down and keep the right foot flexed. to protect the knees. Very good. Slowly slide that back knee down, back. Ooh, square off the hips. Remember, we don't want to lean over to the left. We want our hip bones shining forward. Now slowly bend that back knee. And then we want to grab onto that back foot and maybe hook it with the inside of our elbows. Bring it in as close as you can first. Right hand grabs onto that back foot. So it's easy to flip the grip. Well, at least I find this easier this way. And then grab onto it with your left hand, flipping the grip. Thumb is on the sole of your left foot, and all 4 fingers are behind. And then slowly spin your left arm so that the elbow is pointing straight up towards the sky, and then reach your right arm back. Now, when I first started doing King Pigeon pose, it wasn't so easy to reach my right arm back, so I just grabbed onto my left wrist, and that's totally fine if that's your variation, or if you need a strap today, that's totally fine as well. So just work your way towards it. Keep pressing your chest forward, holding for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Slowly releasing, nice and slow, not too fast, and releasing the back leg. Bring your hands onto the mat, curl your back toes, lift your back knee up, extend the right leg all the way back, and maybe even open up the hips and do whatever feels good. Maybe draw circles, or maybe just hold it there. And then just lower the right foot back down. Very good work. I hope that you worked up to your peak pose today. And we're gonna slowly drop onto our knees and then sweep our legs all the way forward. And slowly lie down on our backs, coming into a reclining position. You did so well today. Extend the left leg onto the mat and hug the right knee in towards your chest. Maybe close your eyes. And just take a few deep breaths. Slowly press the knee over to the left side, taking a nice twist. Keep your shoulder blades touching the mat. You should feel your lower back stretching a little bit here. Slowly releasing, and now swapping to the other side, extending the right leg on the mat and hug the left knee in. Very good. Take nice long breaths here and keep your shoulder blades relaxed and rolled back. Maybe this is the first time you reached our peak pose, King Pigeon, and you've never been able to do it before. And so give yourself a pat on the back if that's the case. If you're still working on it, then just keep doing this video. Slowly pressing the left knee over to the right side. Keep your shoulder blades touching the mat. I find that it's really easy for us to look at something, like a pose or a situation, and think, oh, this is too difficult, I can't do it. But sometimes, once you step in and start working on it, and then you come out on the other side and you look back, I think sometimes it's really easy for us to look at whether it's a pose or a situation and think, this is too hard, I can't do it. But then those who step forward in faith and go, I'm gonna go ahead, and they look back once it's completed and go, sometimes you don't even know, how did I do that? And I find that's very common in my walk in life, when God tells me to do something and I go, no, I can't do it. And then you're able to, because God equips you. Slowly releasing, coming back to center. Now hug both knees in towards your chest as a really nice counter pose for all the back bends you did today. And maybe even draw little circles with your knees, or just hug your knees to chest, whatever feels good for you. Just want to share, like recently I started doing a lot of bouldering, and if you don't know what bouldering is, It's like rock climbing, but without a harness. And so I like to do it without a harness because it challenges you. You can't take the easy way out. You really need to just trust and to just climb. And often there's someone at the bottom who tells you, step onto that block, step over here, extend your leg, and they tell you what to do, but I'm like, no, I can't do it. And that's often my response, I can't do it, it's physically impossible. And they go, no, it's possible, just do it. And because someone tells you that, you attempt it, and then you realize, hey, I could actually do it. And I think that's often how we are like with God. God's like, just go ahead. And we're like, no, that's physically impossible. But maybe God's speaking to you today. Slowly extend your legs out onto the mat, coming into a final resting pose. Start to relax your body. And this is your time for meditation. This is your time to reflect and meditate on how God might be speaking to you today about something maybe He's been calling you to do. It doesn't have to be really big or really hard, like talking to Pharaoh to let the Israelites go. It could even be something small, but it isn't small in God's eyes. Something we might neglect, but He says it's important and He wants you to go ahead and do it. And you've been so scared or so afraid, you don't think you're good enough, or you don't think it's physically possible. And He tells you, He's the one who will equip, and He's the Lord, and He's our God. So anything that's impossible to us is possible for Him. You can stay here for a little bit longer if you want to meditate and just lie on the mat to reap the benefits of your practice. But if you're ready to come out of the practice, slowly roll onto your side and slowly press back up into comfortable seated position. Sitting up nice and tall, and then bring your hands to heart center, relaxing your shoulders down away from your ears. Thank you for practicing with me today. I hope you enjoyed the class. Be blessed.